Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred on podcast. It's Tuesday, which means time for 5 things we learned from the game at the weekend, which was, of course, Crystal Palace 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Don't forget, before we get started, if you are listening to this on a podcast platform, say maybe you're on Spotify, maybe you're on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, don't forget that we are also on, when I say we, I mean I, YouTube. So go to youtube.com/@BarnabySlater_ and vice versa. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do go and subscribe or follow on the podcast platforms, be that Spotify or Apple or Google, because then you can listen to me when you're out running or driving or just walking around having a nice time. And as you know, it's daily Spurs content. Every single weekday, I'll be bringing you some great stuff, hopefully, about Tottenham Hotspur. So as I said, 5 things we learned. I wanted to start by talking about the return of Rodrigo Bentancur. What a moment that was to see him on the sideline, coming on, just looking so delighted to be back. As Big Ange Postecoglou has been saying for about a month now, apparently Rodrigo Bentancur has been banging on his door almost daily, being like, when can I start? When can I play? When can I get back on the pitch? It's been, I don't know, I think it was back in January. So what are we looking at, 10, 11 months out with the ACL injury. And Big Ange said that just behind Bentancur, each time that he comes to knock on his door asking when he can play, are the medical team saying, it's not quite right, it's not quite right. You've got to take your time with these kind of injuries. And for me, it's really exciting, not only that he's back, but also that it seems like Tottenham have taken this one quite carefully. We've definitely in the past rushed players back from injury too soon, and it's a very dangerous thing to do, especially with a knee injury like the ACL. And what we definitely don't want, and the worst case scenario would be Bentancur coming back too soon and then breaking down again with a similar injury. You've seen it happen with lots of other players before, and it's just not what we need. Also, we're very fortunate, and I think Big Ange can take a lot of credit and responsibility for this as well. Very fortunate that now he gets to come back in a good moment. And really, I'd say that potentially what we should look to is to drip feed Rodrigo Bentancur back into the team over the next couple of months. I know that might seem like a little bit of a long time, but realistically, when it comes to January and the games start picking up, we also are then going to lose Pat Matar to the African Cup of Nations, as well as potentially Yves Bissouma as well. In fact, most likely Yves Bissouma will be going there as well. So that's 2 central midfielders who'll be gone for a number of games in January, and that is when we'll definitely need Bentancur and we'll need him to be completely fit. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Big Ange and his coaching team have got that in mind and they're saying to Bentancur, look, you're going to get minutes here and there before then, but what we need is for you and your knee to be at its absolute strongest going into that run of games in January when you'll need to be absolutely our main man in there. So it's really exciting to have him back. Let's face it, I think he was pretty much our best player under Conte for those times when it just wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't good, but he was constantly desperate to get on the ball, would take it off his defenders, turn the man pressing him for the opposition. There were so many times when we'd watch and be like, wow, that's the bravest player we've had in midfield for a long time. And now to have him available alongside potentially Bissouma, who also loves to take the ball on the half turn and break the press, it'll just give us another option that'll make us very hard to read for opposition managers. For instance, as an example, as I discussed in yesterday's match review, Roy Hodgson really basically man-marked Yves Bissouma out of the game at the weekend, Friday night. And as a result, it was very hard for him to get on the ball and make a difference. But if Bentancur was there as well, potentially, then that means it'd be very difficult for them to put 2 of their central midfielders or 2 of their strikers marking a player like that, 2 players like that. So I think it's very exciting. What I would say, though, is I really feel Pat Matar is a huge part of the success we're having at the moment. He's going slightly under the radar, and I think that's because, he's not quite as exciting on the ball as a Bissouma or obviously a James Maddison, but his legs, his engine, his work rate are just second to none. I've been so impressed with him. He's so young and he's growing. So very cool that we've got so many options in midfield. I read a good interview with Emerson Royal actually today where he said, I started the game against Brentford on the first day. I scored a goal, but since then I've not been in the team, but I'm a professional. I'm excited to be working for this squad. And I love the fact that we've got competition for places, and I'm going to try and get my place back from Pedro Porro. As long as all the rest of our players and our midfielders, and I include Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in that, have that attitude, then it will work for us in terms of really threatening the top 4 or 5 places in the league this season, and maybe even better, because that is the attitude that we haven't previously had, certainly not since the Pochettino days, and we need to have that if we're really going to push. So very excited about Bentancur being back and the options that we have in midfield. Next thing I want to talk about that I feel like I've certainly learned over the last game or 2 or 3, it might be a bit of a out there statement, but I'm going to say it. I think Mickey van der Ven might be potentially our best signing for years and years and years. That's not just because of how brilliant he is on the ball, how quick he is, how he reads the game. All of those things, of course, vital. But I think the most important thing about his signing and how he's playing for Tottenham at the moment is how he is bringing the best out of the players around him. And by them, I mean the entirety of the back 5. The keeper, Vicario, he's an unbelievable shot stopper, clearly. But because of Mickey van der Ven's pace and the way that he's reading the game and covering, Vicario isn't having to make nearly as many saves as Hugo Lloris has had to over the last few years. Now, obviously, that's also got a lot to do with Big Ange's attacking philosophy, us being on the front foot, and so therefore teams are under pressure and not getting as many chances against us. That also counts to it, but I think Van der Ven and the way that he's playing counts for that for Vicario. I think he's making Christian Romero a better player. I think Romero is an unbelievable footballer, reader of the game, incredibly aggressive, puts chills up at opposition strikers, I think. I don't think they want to get into 50-50s with him, but what he definitely needs is pace alongside him, because he can get caught every so often. What defender can't? I'm not slagging him off. But Van der Ven's pacing behind him means Romero can be more on the front foot, more assertive on the ball, and play further up the pitch. That's really, really helping him. So that's exciting. And then Pedro Porro, I think we had doubts about him going into the season. Could he defend? And sure, he can get caught in difficult positions defensively, but Van der Ven being around allows him to be more forward-thinking. And Destiny Udogie, I mean, we've talked about him a lot, but what a great player. But basically what I'm just saying is Mickey van der Ven's signing, we all thought, is it a bit much money for him? Lots of people wanted Tapsoba, but I think it's really proven that Ange Postecoglou knows exactly who he wants and exactly what attributes are needed, and he's been an absolutely amazing signing. So Mickey van der Ven, amazing, love it. I want to talk as the third thing about Heung-Min Son. I think Sonny will push Erling Haaland for the Golden Boot this season. It wouldn't surprise me if Mo Salah's there or thereabouts as well, but I think Sonny, playing in this number 9 role, doesn't have to get involved in the game too much in a style that doesn't suit him. Sonny's not the best with his back to goal or receiving passes. Do you know what's interesting about Sonny actually? I think he's better at receiving fizzed in passes. A lot of passes he's getting from James Maddison are really fizzed in between the lines. I think Sonny's kind of talent is in his instinct rather than when he has to think about it too much. And he's taking a lot of those balls really well. But obviously, he's not having to get as much involved in the game as he was when he was playing out wide on the left. And he's basically just one chance, one goal these days. And as we make him more chances, and as we get further into the season, I really think he can threaten. I would say now, if you're a betting person, you want to put some money on it, as long as he stays fit, 20 league goals minimum for Heung-Min Son this season. 20 Premier League goals minimum, possibly up to 25, including a cup run if we get that. And I think he'll push Haaland. Haaland will probably get up to 30 just because of the amount of chances that Manchester City make. But Sonny's going to have a great season. Fourth thing I want to talk about that I've learned, the opposition fans are worrying. I've talked about it before. Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans, Man City fans, Man United fans, they're worrying about Spurs at the moment. And you know why I know they're worrying? Because they're all talking about, 7 of the 10 teams Spurs have played are all in the bottom half. Well, sure. One of the reasons they're in the bottom half is because we've beaten them and they've not been on good runs. But also, since when has any away Premier League game been easy? And we have played 6 of our 10 games away from home. We've also played Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal. And, we didn't get beaten by any of them. So they're worried. They're trying to come up with excuses. I understand it. I saw it happen last year with Arsenal when they had an amazing start too. Look, long may it continue. The more they pipe up, the more they worry about us, the better it shows that we are. So the more worried they are, the more I know how real this is. The final thing I want to talk about today, and 5 things we learned, is how much I think Brennan Johnson could become a key player for this side this season. In both games that he's played, the Arsenal game where he started and then got injured, and then with his little cameo against Palace the other night, he has shown me enough in terms of his, not just his pace, but also his dynamism and his decision making and the runs that he makes into dangerous areas that I think sooner rather than later he will be starting in this team and he will be causing trouble for opposition defences. I really like him. I remember hearing about him about 3 or 4 years ago on the EFL show on Sky, and they were saying, watch out for Brennan Johnson. He's one of the big talents in the EFL, and a Premier League team will take him soon enough. Well, he went up with Nottingham Forest and showed it in the Premier League last season, and I think he's going to be incredible for Spurs. I'm very excited about him, and I think it's going to be shown that 47 or 48 million or whatever it was will turn out to be a snip for a homegrown player who doesn't take up a foreign player squad position and who will make lots of assists and score lots of goals for Tottenham Hotspur going forward as long as he stays fit. So long may his fitness continue. I'm very excited to see what he can bring to this Tottenham team under Big Adge. Guys, let me know what you thought of those 5 things in the comments below. As I said, please do follow and subscribe on the podcast platforms if you're not already doing that, or on YouTube, youtube.com/@BarnabySlater_. And most importantly, come on you Spurs.